In 2019, a construction crew gutting an old strip mall found 6 VHS tapes hidden inside a wall. They were taped behind a service panel, sealed up with drywall, like somebody had wanted them found eventually, just not soon. 5 of the tapes were blank, static, start to finish. Nobody who watched the 6th one still talks about what's on it. Before that strip mall, that building was something else. A restaurant called Bingo's Burger Barn, 1987. If you grew up in a small town back then, you probably had a place just like it. A family restaurant with a stage, an animatronic mascot, birthday parties every Saturday. Bingo's mascot was a life-sized robotic beagle, also named Bingo, who sang 3 songs on a loop and told the same 4 jokes every single set. Kids loved him. Parents tolerated him. Nobody thought twice about him. My cousin Danny worked there that summer. 17 years old, saving up for a car, doing the closing shift 3 nights a week, wiping down tables, running the vacuum, and locking Bingo's stage curtain before he left. He only worked there one summer. He never really explained why he quit. Years later, he finally told me the whole thing. This is that story, as close to how he told it as I can get it. The first strange thing, Danny said, was small enough that he almost forgot about it. He'd lock Bingo's curtain every night before leaving. That was restaurant policy. Curtain closed, stage lights off. Every morning when he came back in for opening shift, the curtain was exactly how he'd left it. Except one Tuesday. He came in, and the curtain was open. Just a few inches, enough to see Bingo's face in the dark. He figured a manager had opened it early. Didn't think much of it. The second thing happened about a week later. He was running the floor vacuum near closing, and the restaurant's old speaker system, the one that played Bingo's theme song on a loop during business hours, clicked on. After hours. Nobody had touched the controls. Just a few notes. Then silence. He unplugged the whole system that night, just to be safe. It was plugged back in the next morning. He never figured out who did that. He mentioned it to a coworker the next day, a woman named Melissa, older than him, who'd worked the closing shift the summer before. She didn't laugh it off the way his manager had. "You hear the humming yet?" she asked him. Not really a question, more like she already knew the answer. She told him she used to hear it too, sometimes, right around the same time every week. She said she'd stopped asking about it after her 2nd month because every time she brought it up to a manager, the conversation ended the exact same way. A shrug, a change of subject, and a reminder that the animatronic frame was old equipment, nothing more. "Just don't be alone with the curtain open," she told him. "That's the only rule that matters." Danny asked her what she meant by that. She didn't answer. She just went back to stacking chairs like she hadn't said anything at all. By the 3rd week, Danny started noticing Bingo's position had changed overnight. Small things. A hand slightly higher than where the mechanism usually rested it. The head tilted a few degrees off-center. He asked his manager about it. The manager laughed it off, said the animatronic was old. The motor sometimes drifted when it powered down wrong. Danny almost believed that. He even laughed about it with a coworker, joking that Bingo was sneaking around the restaurant at night eating leftover fries. But the joke stopped being funny the night he heard humming coming from the stage while the whole building was powered off at the breaker. He stood in the dark dining room, vacuum still running in his hand, listening to 3 notes of Bingo's theme song hum out of a machine with no electricity running to it at all. That same week, Danny found something he wasn't supposed to find. A service panel behind Bingo's stage, slightly ajar, revealing wiring that didn't match anything in the maintenance manual taped to the break room wall. There was a small brass plaque bolted just inside the panel. Old. Older than the restaurant itself, it looked like. Engraved with a single word he didn't recognize, and a date from 1961, 26 years before Bingo's Burger Barn ever opened. He asked his manager about it the next day. The manager's face changed, just slightly, and he said the animatronic frame had been acquired second-hand from a company that didn't exist anymore. Nobody would say more than that. Danny couldn't let it go. On his day off, he went to the local library and dug through old newspaper archives on microfilm, looking for anything about that building before it was Bingo's Burger Barn. He found one short article, a few paragraphs, from 1961. A children's entertainment hall had operated in that same location for less than a year before quietly shutting down. The article didn't explain why. It just said the building had changed ownership following an incident, and left it at that. No further articles, no follow-up. Like the story had just been allowed to end there, on purpose. He never found out what the engraved word on that brass plaque actually meant. Whatever it wasn't English, and it wasn't anything the library's old dictionaries recognized either. Danny's last night was a Thursday. He was alone, closing, running the vacuum near the stage, when the overhead lights flickered once and didn't come back on fully. Just half power, dim and yellow. He turned to check the breaker panel. When he turned back, Bingo's curtain was fully open, and Bingo was standing at the very front edge of the stage. Not in its resting position. Standing, upright, joints locked in a way the motors weren't built to hold. Its head turned toward him. Too smooth. No mechanical stutter, no motor whir. Just turned, like something underneath the suit was doing it manually. Then it spoke. Not the recorded voice from the show. Something underneath that, layered with it. Two voices at once, one high and thin, one low and wrong. "You closed the curtain again," it said. "I don't like the curtain closed." Danny didn't move, couldn't move. He watched Bingo take one step off the stage, a full step, heavy, deliberate, the kind of movement the animatronic's legs were never designed to make. It said his name, not the name on his work badge, his actual first name, the one only his family used. That's when he ran. Straight through the dining room, out the front doors, into the parking lot, and didn't stop until he was 3 streets away, sitting on a curb, shaking at 11 at night. He never went back inside that building again, not even to get his last paycheck. Bingo's Burger Barn closed for good about 4 months later. Officially, the reason given was declining business. Danny never believed that. Neither did I, once he told me the story. The building sat empty for years before it became part of that strip mall. Nobody ever publicly explained what happened to the original animatronic. Records show it was sold as scrap to a liquidation company, though no buyer was ever named. The construction crew who found those tapes in 2019 didn't know any of this history. They just found 6 unlabeled cassettes sealed inside a wall that had clearly been closed up on purpose, years before the strip mall was even built. 5 were blank. The 6th showed 11 seconds of grainy, dark security footage. A dining room, a stage, a curtain open, and something standing just outside the frame, close enough to see the edge of its shadow stretching across the floor, but never close enough to see anything more than that. The footage has been floating around online in pieces for a few years now. Nobody's ever confirmed where the original tape actually is today. One of the construction workers who found the tapes gave a short interview to a local paper at the time, mostly about the renovation itself. Almost as an afterthought, he mentioned the tapes, said his crew had joked about it for maybe a day, then stopped joking, and none of them wanted to be the one holding the camera when they played tape 4 a second time. He was asked if he still had a copy. He said no. He said he didn't want one. Melissa, Danny's old coworker. I tracked her down a few years ago after Danny finally told me all of this. I asked her, gently, if she'd heard about the tapes. She had. She said she wasn't surprised. She said the only thing that surprised her was that it took this long for anyone else to find out. If you ever find yourself alone, closing up somewhere after everyone else has already gone home, and you hear something hum from a machine that shouldn't have power, just lock the curtain and go home. Don't ask why it moved. If you've ever worked a job like this, a late shift, alone, somewhere that never quite felt empty, drop it in the comments. I want to hear it. For more true horror stories, unexplained mysteries, and terrifying encounters, subscribe to Haunted Stories. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that might be true.